Are you ready to go from dreaming to doing? In my last video, I talked about just getting started. And today I want to double down on that by going a little bit deeper and talking about exactly how we can get started. Make sure to stick around because by the end of the video, you'll be left with some tools to go from hesitation to activation. Let's get it. Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Kevin Joseph. On this channel, I put out content that's focused on growth personally and professionally. So if you're on a journey of personal growth, be sure to subscribe, hit the like button for all the videos, and make sure you turn on the bell notifications so you don't miss another one. So the first tip I have for you is to identify and challenge any of your limiting beliefs. Now, we all have them. I know some of us struggle with it more than others. And these are the thoughts in our heads that say things like, I'm not good enough, I'm not educated enough, I don't have enough money, or whatever it might be. And the fact is that many of these beliefs are actually not fact. They're just thoughts that are buried in our heads. And they're the things that sometimes we navigate to in order to maybe make us feel a little bit better about not applying ourselves in a certain way. And I want to use a story of mine to help paint this picture. Going back many years ago to when I was in high school, I got into grade 9. And one of the things that I thought would be really cool to do is to join the high school football team. But there was one problem. I'm short. I'm 5'3", 5'4", probably been about this height most of my life anyways. But in high school, I wanted to join the team, but I also was very self-conscious about my height because I thought that in order to be on the team, you needed to be, really tall or really muscular, the jock type, right? And I really wasn't that, obviously. And so I never went out for the team because in my head, I had believed that I was too small. I wasn't going to be fast enough. I wasn't going to be strong enough. I wasn't going to be able to handle all the different plays and all that kind of stuff. And so I just never went out for the team, even though it was a burning desire within my heart. Now, fast forward to grade 12, it's the last year of high school for me. And a good friend of mine who knew that I wanted to be on the team, or at least I wanted to try out for the team, just said to me, Kev, look, man, just knock it off. It's grade 12. It's your last year. What do you have to lose? Just try out for the team. What's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to tell you no. And so with a bit of convincing, I finally decided, you know what? Sure, I'll go out for the team. Tryout day comes and I arrive on the field and I'm, warming up like everyone else is doing. And one of the first drills that we had, our coach said to us, okay, here's how the drill is going to go. You're going to lay on your back. And when I blow the whistle, what you got to do is flip over to your stomach, get up, run 20 yards and come back. And so I was like, okay, that seems pretty simple enough. And we all lined up on the line and I got down on my back, and when the whistle blew, turned around, jumped up, ran down 20 yards, came back. And I was the first one to go and come back. And I remember as I came back across the line, the coach kind of had this kind of look in his face and didn't really know what to make of it. And he said, okay, well, everybody back down. Let's do that one again. And so round 2 comes and back down on the ground, whistle blows up, down 20 yards, back. Kevin is the first one back across the line, and he's really starting to give me this eye, and I'm curious as to what he's thinking, but I'm like, whatever, I'm here anyways. Maybe he's thinking, what am I doing here? He pulls me off to the side a few minutes later, and he just looks me straight in the face, and he says, where have you been since grade 9? And at first, I was a little bit taken aback by his statement. It really made me think. And then he said, no, seriously, you're really quick and you're really agile. How come you haven't tried out for the team before? And of course, at this point, I felt like an idiot because I'm like, well, maybe I should have done this a long time ago and I would have had more of a go at it. Here's the fact. The fact is that I was short. But it was not a fact that I was not good enough. It was not a fact that I was not fast enough. I made the team and I played in several games. Obviously, we didn't really do too well. Hopefully not because of me. The reality is my belief that I was not a bunch of things held me back from applying myself and trying to get on this team. I share that story for a couple of different reasons. The first one is vulnerability. I think there's a power in admitting to people that we don't all have it together and that we all have these limiting beliefs. And then number 2 is to just reinforce the fact that some of the things that are in our heads hold us back from so many different opportunities in life. And if we can just decide to let them go, throw caution to the wind, be vulnerable, there is so much more that we could achieve than we probably don't even realize. The second tip I have for you is to write out SMART goals. Now, if you haven't heard the term SMART goals, it stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. Now, here's the problem. Many people write out their goals in very basic terms, something very simple like, I want to be fit. There's nothing that is very inspiring about that. But now let's rewrite that and make this SMART. And you could say something like, I will work out for 30 minutes 3 times a week for the next month. You can see if you look at these two things side by side, the first one just tells you what you want to do, but it's not giving you a plan of action. And I think that's where most people kind of get caught, is they're not coming up with the actual plan of what they want to do. Now, if we look at the second phrase again, is it specific? Yes, because it's telling you specifically what it is you want to do, but also how you're going to do it. Is it measurable? Well, of course it is. It's measurable because you can measure it against your goal of working out for 30 minutes 3 times a week for a whole month. That's pretty measurable. Is it achievable? Yes, because I'm doing something that I know is within my abilities, right? If I have a gym in my basement, maybe that's really achievable. If I have a gym that's in the same place where I work or right down the street from my house, maybe it is. Is it realistic to do a 30-minute workout 3 times a week over the course of a month? It can be, which is different than you saying, I'm going to work out for 3 hours a day. And then lastly, time-based or time-bound is one that I think a lot of people miss in their planning of their goals, because we're not setting a target for the time in which we want to achieve that same goal. So give yourself a target, right? If you have a special event coming up, if it's a particular time of the year because it's an educational one, maybe you got exams at a certain time, maybe you're going on vacation and you got to get that summer body in, or whatever it might be. But whatever the goal is, make sure you have a time frame in which you want to set that goal, because if you don't, then it just becomes this open-ended thing that never has an end date, and that's not good either. Tip number 3 is to create a plan and take the first step. Taking the first step, sometimes just getting started, is probably the hardest part. Think of your journey to your end goal as a GPS, right? You got to plug in a destination of where you're trying to get to, and then you got to start taking small incremental steps to getting there. And far too often, we want to just think that we have to put all this stuff into action right away, and it becomes overwhelming. And so I think it's important for us to just take small little chunks, break them down into manageable pieces, and take one step at a time, because action is going to beat complacency every single day. Don't wait for the perfect moment. You've heard me say that that's going to be my mantra. If you keep coming back to my videos, I'm going to keep pumping that into you, is to just get started and stop waiting for the perfect moment, because one does not exist. The only perfect moment that exists is the moment that you're taking right now. So absolutely take the first step, create a plan, and mark out what it is you need to do. Look, if you're trying to start a business, for example, maybe it's not that you need a website right away. Maybe you just need to do the research on what it takes to start a business in your local area of jurisdiction. Maybe that's your first step, is to find out, what do I need to do? What do I need to have in place in order to register a business? Maybe your first step is just identifying what it is you're selling in your business. We all have great ideas, but we don't always plan them out. And so every little thing that we do is one step closer to getting to that final destination. Tip number 4 is to build a support network. Find yourself a group of people who are like-minded, people that you know will encourage you, people who have your interest in the forefront of their mind, and get those people to rally around you. I shared in one of my other videos about my journey to getting my CPP certification. And I had tried it many years before, and I had failed at that first attempt. And thankfully, I was successful at the second one. But one of the key trigger items that I think was different for me the second time around versus the first time was that I kind of kept it to myself, because I was almost psyching myself out just in case I fail. The less people that know, the better. What I found the second time around was, by me telling people what I wanted to do, it built a system of people around me who would always check in and make sure, hey, are you studying? How's it going? When are you doing your tests? They were always there to support me. And I also felt like I didn't want to disappoint them. So I put more of an effort to now find a reason not to fail. So I had to change my mindset on the reverse for that. So have an accountability partner. Maybe it's a coach, a mentor, a friend, someone that's going to be around to help encourage you and keep you focused on your journey. Tip number 5 is to embrace your failures and learn from them. I think one of the biggest reasons why people just don't get started is the fear of failure. And the ironic thing is that it is through failure that you actually learn how to be resilient and how you learn what not to do. And so you need to really shift your perspective. If you're a person that is so focused on not wanting to fail and not wanting to disappoint people, I don't know what words to use, but I really need you to get in your head that failure is a part of the process. It's part of the process, not apart from the process. Once you shift your mind, that's one of the key factors that I think is going to get you to the next level of where you need to be in your life. Tip number 6 is to celebrate small wins. Many of us have this feeling of, I need to wait until the race is over, until I've gotten all the way to achieve the pinnacle of success before I can sit back and acknowledge where I've come from and what I've done. The fact that you are struggling right now with even getting started, when you get started and you hit certain milestones, and this is sort of, maybe I forgot to say this earlier, but what you want to do is when you're creating that plan, what you want to do is indicate milestones that you want to achieve at a certain point. And as you hit those milestones, take time to sit back, reflect, and celebrate those wins. It gives you a little bit of something to keep you motivated because you realize that you've hit a target that you probably wouldn't have hit otherwise. And so it's absolutely important that you take the time to acknowledge the small wins whenever they are. At the end of each day, before you go to bed, sit back and reflect on what you've achieved. And as you become more grateful and have more gratitude for the things that you're doing, it'll build the ability within you to acknowledge the fact that you're doing much more than you were doing a year ago when you were sitting on your couch and doing absolutely nothing. Maybe you were scrolling social media, maybe you were playing Candy Crush or doing whatever it was that was wasting your time. The fact that you are now actually achieving small targets, make sure you celebrate them. Before we get out of here, there's one thing I want you to do for me. Down in the comments, I want you to write down what your current limiting belief is. And I want you to do it for a couple of reasons. One is because I want it down in the comments. I'd like to see what you're struggling with, and maybe if there's more content that I can put out that will help you get through that limiting belief. But also, maybe it's something that you can come back to a year from now and come back and relook at this video and find your comment and see how far you've come from the time that you made that comment to where you are in the future. And if you like this video, please give it a like, share it with someone you think would benefit from it. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Until we meet again, peace and love.